This is Ben Casey, brand manager for the East Coast. Same job we do. We do the same job. He's holding down the East. And he's going to be giving you a nice, quick 20-25 minute demo today.
Awesome.
Live 10.
Cool, thank you.
Hi, my name's Ben from Ableton. I'm really looking forward to getting to show you some of the new features in Live 10. Live is already a fast, fluid, flexible way to create and perform your music, but now in 10 you can get so much more done. You can create with a totally new sound palette. We've got a bunch of new curated library sounds. We've got new instruments and audio devices. You can work faster and stay in the flow with a bunch of new workflow improvements to the software. You can get more done away from the software with a bunch of new features for our push hardware. And you can extend all of this way beyond regular Ableton Live standard thanks to improvements with Max for Live and a more fully integrated kind of next generation of Max for Live. So there's so much in here I can't possibly cover all of it in the time we have today. So I'd encourage you to go grab Live 10 and download it and try it out yourself and discover all the features, but I will go over some of my favorites.
Sounds good.
So first things first, we've got a slightly new look to the user interface. We've cleaned things up and hopefully made things a lot clearer and a lot smoother and a lot faster to work with. But what I really want to draw your attention to first is this concept of collections over here in the browser. Over the years, the browser has filled up with all kinds of content. It's got all your drum hits, your drum kits, your samples, your projects, your plugins, everything. And now in Live 10, it's easier than ever to kind of collect and pull together all of your favorite stuff from the browser in one place that makes it quick to access. These basically work a little bit like tags. If I really love the arpeggiator and I'm going to use it a lot, I can right-click right here and choose to add it to any of these collections. And when I do, it'll show up over here under the Collections tab. Now things can belong to as many different collections as you want, and these collections can be customized and named whatever you want. So you may just have your favorites, but maybe you want to use a collection for all the sounds you need during your live show, or maybe you want to use a collection for sounds that are appropriate for the side project you're working on or your next EP or whatever. You can find all sorts of clever ways to organize things with these collections. They also show up right on Push at the top of Push's browser, so it's really fast to get to your favorite sounds. Now all those drum kits that start with the letter Z, I use them a lot more often in my production process. I'm going to use this purple category right here for most of the sounds in the demo today. And I'm just going to start off with the drum kit. So I have an empty live set here, and so this is really a perfect opportunity to show Capture, which is, to me, probably my personal favorite new feature in Live 10, because it allows you to capture your performances even if you weren't recording at the time. So, for example, I pretty often load an instrument onto a track and then I want to try this out and play a beat. So, let's try this one. So if this was Live 9, because I didn't record that, what I would have to do now is Armatrack record, tap in the tempo, turn the metronome on, and try to play that exactly the way I did there, again, along with the click track. And now in Live 10, all I have to do is come up to the transport bar and click this capture button right here. And a bunch of things happened really fast. First, Live captured that performance, even though I had not recorded it at the time, and so put it into a new clip here in the session view. But importantly, Live already figured out where the pattern should start and where it should end and what the tempo of it is. So if you look at my tempo now, rather than me having to play to the click track's playing to me. If I turn the metronome on, it's not just captured into a clip out of time with the rest of my project. It's Live is locked right in on what the tempo of that clip should be. Now while we're here, you might notice that the metronome sounds a little bit different, and that's because we've updated the metronome in Live 10. So now you have a choice from a range of different sounds. So if you've gotten a little tired of the old classic click sound, you can spice it up a little. But it's not just new sounds, we've also radically improved the different tempos and intervals that you can work with in the metronome. So for example, if I'm working really slowly, if I'm down at 70 beats per minute working on a laid-back hip-hop track, it might be really hard to play to a quarter note click. Now in Live 10 I could switch this up and have an 8th note click instead, or maybe an extremely fast 16th note click, or maybe I want to get a little funky and like play to a triplet click. So ironically, the click is improved. You can make it sound better and have it run at all sorts of different intervals, but hopefully with Capture, you won't have to listen to it as often at all, because you can start your compositions without having to play to a click track in the first place. So that's how capture works with a percussive sound. Let's go ahead and just check it out with the melodic sound. I'm going to just drag a bass in here from my browser. And for this one, cool. Is that loud enough? Sounds kind of quiet back here. I'm going to hit play on my drums. I'm just going to play some bass along with those drums. So if I like that, I can capture right from push. All I have to do is hold down record and press new. And right here on push, I have my loop ready to go. Now that's kind of an aggressive bass sound. It's got kind of a bit of a detuned chord to it there, so I'd really like to make these drums sound a little bit hotter. And this is a great time to talk about the next sound design tool in live, Drum Bus. So Drum Bus is a simple tool to designed to let you kind of change the essential character of your mixed drums. You can use it to add some warmth, some saturation, bring out your snares, bring out your kicks, and really just get kind of flat, stale sounding drums and get them sounding ready for release. So I'm going to solo the drums for just a second here so you can hear Drum Bus, and I'll zoom in here so you can have a closer look at it. Now Drum Bus has a drive section here at the beginning that we can use to add some saturation, and there's 3 different levels of saturation, so I can get really distorted if I want, or I can dial that back and just add a little bit of analog drive to it to sweeten up the sound. This crunch control right here lets me specifically add mid-range grid. So if I want to really bring out those snares and dirty those snares up, crunch will let me do that. But while you're doing that, you may create some harshness in the high end, and that's where this damp control will let you pull back some of the highs in your sound so that you can really thicken up that snare without it getting brittle in the high end. There's a compressor built in right here to bring the whole level up, and we also have a transient shaper. So with one knob, I can go from a little more staccato drum sound, really emphasizing the attack on these drums, to a longer, more sustained drum sound. And this last control here, boom, allows me to dial in a ton of low frequency information. Now, the low frequency here is tunable, so right now I'm at 50 hertz, but I could easily tune this up or down. Maybe I want to hit the resonant frequency of the room to really annoy the other exhibitors here. Or maybe I want to tune this to a specific pitch so that it helps to support the whole song. In this case, I'm working in A flat, so right here I can see different musical notes, and if I click here, it'll quantize the pitch to exactly that note. So now I have an A flat subtone in my kick, so it'll help reinforce the bass line. Just to kind of compare this is how my drums started. So if we kind of A-B these for a second, this is where they began, this is where the one device has gotten them to. It's a really quick way to get your drums sounding big and ready for a release. In fact, now that I've made these drums much bigger, I might want to work on the bass line a little bit. This is kind of a dirty bass line, but it might be fun to add a little bit more grit to it. So we've got another new device in Live 10 called Pedal. Pedal is a component level model of a number of different analog guitar stomp boxes. It gives you kind of a warm overdrive sound, an aggressive distortion, and kind of a broken 60s fuzz tone. And it's designed for guitars. It sounds great on guitars. It's meant to go right along with pedal, amp, and cabinet as kind of completing our guitar signal chain. But like most effects in live, it's meant to be used on whatever you think it sounds good on. So I'm going to use it here to add some grit into the bass. I'm going to turn up some of the drive here. And I'm going to use this sub button to add the low end back into this pedal so that the distortion doesn't take away from the bass in this particular track. Cool, so let's add some melody to this. I'm going to come back over to my collections, and this is a really wonderful time to talk about our new synthesizer. In Live 10, we've added a new synth called Wavetable, and we thought really hard about what a new synth in live should be. And the reason we settled on wavetable synthesis is that it's really versatile. We can use wavetable synthesis to make really aggressive sounds, really mellow ones. It can sound really warm and analog-y. It can sound really harsh and digital. It can be smooth and mellow or aggressive. Sound really vintage and really modern. But what was an added benefit for us is that working with a wavetable synthesizer is extremely familiar to anybody that's ever worked with any kind of subtractive or analog synthesizer in the past. It has oscillators, filters, envelopes, all the modulators that you'd expect on any other kind of synth. So if you've used any of the other synths in live, you're going to feel really comfortable creating sounds with Wavetable. You just have a whole bunch more sonic versatility. So let's go ahead and load that up. I am going to start out with, let me just play you a few sounds from Wavetable so you can kind of hear some of this range that you can get out of it. So I want to turn this up. So let's check out one of these. I'm going to drag a new wavetable in here. And while you're looking at push, I might as well show you that Wavetable has a beautiful user interface designed right here for push. So right here on the hardware, I can see my wavetables, and I can scroll through them, I can edit their position, and really kind of dial in the sound we want right here from push. In fact, it was important for us that Wavetable be a synth that you could program sounds from scratch on the push hardware. But check this out in the software for just a second. So here's Wavetable in its more folded up compact form where it doesn't take up too much of the user interface. We've got our Wavetable oscillator here and our filters and our modulators. But if I click this one button here, we'll expand the user interface up so that you can really see every single parameter of the synth on the screen at one time. You can see both of the Wavetable oscillators, the sub-oscillator, all of these modulators, these envelopes and LFOs. You can see our two analog modeled filters and the modulation matrix that lets you route any of these to anything else and really get some wild, evolving, futuristic sounds. Now, there are some really unique things in Wavetable. For one, we've chosen a huge collection of wavetables. There are a ton of categories of different types of tables, and each one is filled with tons of really versatile, really well-created wavetables. Along with that, each of these wavetable oscillators has this oscillator effect here. And what these oscillator effects allow you to do is go way beyond pure wavetable synthesis. If we look in this menu here, you can see that I can start to do FM synthesis with built-in FM oscillators. This classic mode here will allow me to do pulse width mod and sync to this wavetable, so I can take this wavetable and really radically distort the shape of it to create all sorts of different sounds. So there's really like no limit to the kind of sounds you can get out of the wavetables that are built into this synth. Another really unique aspect of Wavetable that I personally haven't seen in any other synthesizer are the unison options. So unison is a great way to take multiple voices from a polyphonic synthesizer and stack them together to make big, huge synth sounds. And in Wavetable, in addition to classic unison modes, we've got unison modes like shimmer and noise that add some modulation to the pitch to really create something even thicker and evolving over time. We've also got unison modes like position spread here that make sure every one of those voices has a different position setting within the wavetable, so then none of the voices sound exactly the same. Really thickens up the sound in an unusual way. So let's go ahead and make some music with this. I'm gonna show you, let's get push up on the screen for just a second, because what I actually want to do here is I want to take this sound what I want to do here is show you one of the new features of push. So we've added a new step sequencer to push. Push is famous for having a really nice rhythmic step sequencer built into it, and this notes mode that makes it really fast to play in key and create chords and harmonies quickly. Well now, in Live 10, Push has gained this ability to do both of those at once. We have this 32-step step sequencer in the top half of the grid, and the bottom half of the grid has our familiar notes mode. So what I can do right here is I can choose a chord, and then I can decide where in time I want to put that chord. So maybe I want this chord right here. Let's solo this for just a second. Maybe I want to put that chord right here, and maybe this is my next chord. I'll put those there, and I'll add some chords here, and let's finish it off here. those in one more time. There we go. So, in addition to being able to type in these chords really quickly, I can go back and make a lot of changes to them. If I switch over to the clip view here, I can see the notes within the chords right on push. And I can grab any of them and zoom right in on them and change settings about them. For example, maybe I want to make them a little bit longer. Maybe I want to add some notes to them. I can hold down one of these chords, and while I'm holding it, just choose to add some more notes to it. Make it a 4-note chord or a 5-note chord, whatever makes sense for me at the time. Let's go ahead and bring the original material back in with this. Now we've got another sound design tool built into Live 10 that I want to show you, and that's Echo.
Before we go to Echo, could you just maybe tap on the MIDI modulation matrix and just show us a little bit about how we interface with that?
Absolutely. So right here,
such a cool piece.
Right here is the modulation matrix. This patch is particularly busy, so maybe what I'll do is load a simpler patch here for you, so you can really kind of just dive in and see how that works. So let's just grab a super basic wavetable sound here. So right here with this modulation matrix, I can route any of these modulators to any destination. And all I have to do is select the destination, like for example, this wavetable position, and that shows up right here in my modulation matrix. So if I wanted to assign the LFO, all I have to do is click and drag up or down. Now, if I wanted to do multiple routings here, I could easily route this LFO to any destination I want. If I click on my filter, for example, I can say, let's send some LFO there. Maybe I want to add this second wavetable oscillator, and maybe I want its position to be affected by the envelope. So I can turn the envelope control, I want envelope 2. By the way, if I want to reset any of these values, all I have to do is double click on them and that value will reset to 0. So it's a super fast way to create these patches and kind of explore different modulation options. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's great.
Awesome. So let's go back to what we have here real quick because I want to show you a little bit about how Echo works. Now, Live already has a number of different delays in it, but the delays in Live are relatively simple single serving delays. And our goal with Echo was to create an incredibly character-filled instrument of a delay. So Echo is not really a model of any one specific delay device, but it takes on a lot of the characteristics of a number of different delays. It can sound like an old analog tape delay, it can sound like a bucket brigade delay, it can sound like an 80s hardware digital delay, and it can just be filled up with noise and modulation and wow and flutter and go in all kinds of interesting directions. So let's hear a little bit of it here. So I'm going to start off by using the input stage here. So the input into Echo can be overdriven and saturates in a really pleasant way. So I can add a little bit of grit and noise to the delayed sound just by turning up the input knob. I've got this visualization of my delay time right here, and I can use this or these knobs to change that delay time and really be able to visualize the effect of my delay settings and my feedback. The feedback goes up to like a wildly irresponsible 150%. So if you want to create some real noise and grit, it's a fast way to do that. We've got a reverb built in right here in the signal chain, and that can be put in the feedback path or just at the end of the device. Over here we have a modulation tab where you can modulate those delay times and create all sorts of interesting changes over time. And here in the character tab, you can really dive dive into kind of editing, kind of controlling the character of this delay. We can add some tape noise in here, so maybe we want this to make it sound like an old worn out tape delay instead of a new modern digital delay. Maybe the tape is really worn out, so we want some wow and some flutter in there. We don't want perfect delay playback every single time. I'm going to use the analog filter models in here to kind of shape the sound here. You can really hear the grit come out of that tape noise. You can hear some of the wow and flutter, so you can change the pitch of the delays. The ducking is a really nice way to be able to kind of create some really intense distortion or some really intense feedback, and then instantly kind of do built-in sidechain compression. So every time the note comes in, it'll compress the sound of the delays to let that initial sound through. Cool. So let's go ahead and put this all back together. So now that I have a few different elements in here, it's a really good time for me to show off multi-clip MIDI editing. I've got some drums, I've got some bass, I've got some melody, and now in Live 10 I can select more than one clip at one time and see all of those clips' MIDI information in a single clip view at one time. So right here I can roll over and I can see, be able to do my editing in context. I can see, hey, is the bass line in the pocket with the kick drum? Or are the notes of the chords reinforcing the melody of the bass line, for example? And really kind of get all those different parts working together in one place. So I can see all of the data from the different clips. I can also edit the musical material for any of the clips at one time. So I think this is a really great way to be able to kind of create new stuff in context and kind of see what you're working on. We've added some features to the arrangement view as well. I don't have time to go over nearly all of them, but what I will do is I'm just going to select what we have so far and just bring it over here to the arrangement view so that we can play with at least a little bit of it. So the first thing that I would want to show off here is automation here in the arrangement view. So we've added a new global automation mode, which means one press of the A key will automatically hide or show all of the automation across all the tracks, which makes it really fast to be able to kind of create really complex modulation in your arrangement, and then with one click hide all that and kind of get back to the structure of the song. But it also opens up a lot of opportunities for better arrangement editing. So there's a bunch of changes to the way you create automation. For one, I can click anywhere within the clip to make a new automation breakpoint. I don't have to start on the breakpoint line. I can also drag points back across the other points instead of having to hold down a modifier key to do this. I can use my familiar cut, copy, and paste or duplicate to quickly create repeating modulation that I probably shouldn't be doing to the feedback of this track. But there's also one of the features that I personally love is it's easier than ever to create rhythmic automation. As I move these automation points around, they snap to musically relevant intervals. And it's also easy to edit them without accidentally changing the value. You'll notice as I move this breakpoint forward and backward, it's staying right at its 23%. It's not accidentally wiggling up or down in value. So I can change the value of something really easily without messing up its timing, or change the timing without messing up the value. So that's a little bit of the stuff here in the automation view. Now again, I could create some relatively complex stuff here, and then instantly kind of hide all that and get back to the composition as a whole. Now, once I have something in here that I really like, I probably want to play it for people. That's probably the whole point of this. So there's a bunch of different improvements that have come along in terms of kind of finishing up a mix. We've added improvements to EQ8 to let it go down to lower, to let you work on the bass range of your music all the way down to 10 hertz. We've got the utility has been updated with a whole bunch of new routing like signal flow improvements, as well as things like a bass mono feature to let you keep all the stereo imaging within your high end, but not have to worry about stereo imaging messing up your bass frequencies. And if it's time to share this, the export window has gained some new options here. So now, for the very first time, I can export out a WAV file and an MP3 file simultaneously, But I can also export out a FLAC file, so I don't really fill up my hard drive with WAV files anymore. I, with one single click here, can bounce out my FLAC file with all the audio quality of my WAV, but not using up nearly as much hard drive space, and simultaneously make this 320 kilobit MP3 so that I can upload that and share it and send it to people and listen to in the car, that sort of a thing. So, so that's a lot of the features that go into kind of creating and producing a piece of music. If you have a few minutes, I would love to share just a little bit of what's come in Max for Live in terms of extending this beyond kind of traditional, a lot of the core functions of Live.
That'd be awesome.
Live 10 really represents the next generation of Max for Live. We've worked really, really closely with Cycling 74 on this. Max for Live is now integrated into Live 10, so there's no separate installation. Devices open up immediately when you drag them onto tracks. They use significantly less CPU, and they're way more stable, so you can use a ton more of them in your productions. We've also added some features to Max for Live that I think will be really useful for people. It supports sysx messages now, so all the hardware hackers around the world can start to create really interesting editors for all those classic vintage hardware synths that we love that use sysx data to communicate. It's also got surround sound support. It's got multi-channel audio, and we include with Live 10, we actually have a surround panner that comes with Live 10, so you can get started doing your surround sound mixing from Live 10. However, I want to point out that because this is Max for Live, multi-channel audio means all kinds of cool stuff. I can't wait to see the first person that makes a multi-channel granular sampler that's a true surround instrument. But yeah, these are technologies that unlock all sorts of potential to different developers to be able to create new and interesting patches. So we've got the surround panner. The last one that I would want to show you really, really quickly, there are a ton of devices that have gotten added here. I would be remiss if I didn't show you Shaper. Shaper is a really powerful tool to let you create repeating modulation data fast. So for example, maybe I want to do something to the cutoff frequency here. I can take my Shaper and I can map it to the cutoff frequency. And now, right from Shaper, I can draw in whatever kind of modulation shapes. Let's fold echo down here. I can draw in any kind of modulation shapes I might want. They could be on the grid or off the grid, and you'll see this repeating over and over here. So I'm able to create my own sort of complex LFO shapes and use them right inside Live.
So similar to what you could do with the LFO tool, but you can draw your own shapes here, is that right?
You can draw your own shapes. We've got some built-in shapes that are really interesting and useful. You can change your grid sizes here to get all sorts of really interesting rhythmic options, as well as just turning snap off completely and being able to really get off the grid with some fun modulation options. Shaper, as well as LFO and a bunch of the other devices, can also be mapped to multiple different destinations at once. So I don't have to worry about okay, I'm using this for the filter, I can't use it somewhere else. Now I can map my filter while also mapping a parameter on a parameter here on echo and have those two kind of working together. The same update has happened to the LFO tool. There's also a bunch of new drum synthesizers included with Live 10 and Max for Live that sound great, and they're really interesting on their own, and they're also interesting to use in drum racks to kind of layer in with other kind of acoustic drum sounds. So as I said, there's so much here in the update that I can't possibly cover all of it, but this is just some of my favorites. I hope this has been interesting for you. Thank you so much.